up? What up? What up? What up? We just gonna stop that because I gotta get into this content sooner rather than later. What's up, everybody? I can't even talk. I'm so excited about what's about to go down today. Welcome to episode number 2 of the Blue Collar Bassist podcast. If we haven't met yet, my name is Ted and I talk bass. My goal is to help bass players of all levels navigate this world of what I like to call the blue collar bass player. One of the ways that we do this is through conversations like this one. We have some real power players in the game of endorsements, gear, stuff like that are going to have a serious conversation with everybody about how to get endorsements, how to maintain those relationships, what the companies expect from people who are endorsing their products, all that stuff. So let me tell you who I got. I don't want to embarrass him too much, but we got Dave Avenius, formerly of Aguilar Amplification, now with GHS Strings. We got my man Dale Titus in here with Aguilar Amplification. And joining us in just a little bit is going to be Jonathan Moody with GHS Strings. Let me go on and bring these gents on, and let's get into a serious conversation. What's up, fellas?
Hey, Ted, how you guys doing?
Man, why don't you go? You know, we've talked so much before, but I'm gonna go on and let you guys introduce yourselves. Dale, why don't you hop in there first?
Yeah, my name's Dale Titus. I started in the MI business. I started in about 1984, and that was working in a guitar shop. And then I went through and studied at MI. Was a player for a while. Then I got in 98, I got in what we call the MI industry, where I started working on the musical instrument sides. And actually, I met Dave Avenius at that time. I was repping Warwick, and he'll tell you his story, but he was working at managing a music store, and we became friends. Over the years, I then, about 13 years ago, I got hired by Aguilar, by Dave, to work with him, and I'm still there. I'm actually work as artist relations for Aguilar Amplification and Spectre. I'm sorry, I do handle a little bit of Spectre, but dark glass. So I do primarily Aguilar and dark glass.
Nice. What about you, Dave?
I'll start with a fun story about the first time I actually came in contact with Dale. So when I was a kid, just starting to play bass, okay, I say I'm a kid. I'm not that much younger than Dale. But, when I was a teenager and I had started playing bass, and I remember my first issue of Bass Player magazine getting to the back, and there was an article on ways to be more creative, and it said, if you get stuck in a rut, if you find yourself playing the same pattern over and over, change the tuning of your bass, play that lick again, and then, it'll sound different, and then learn that in the proper tuning. And I'll never forget that it was written by Dale Titus. So the name had stuck with me all those years later. Around 96, I moved to Los Angeles from New York, where I'm from originally, to play music. And I got lucky enough to help start and manage a store called the LA Bass Exchange. That's where Dale and I first made contact when he was working at Dana B. Goods, became friends. About 5 years into that, I decided I wanted to try something different. Aguilar hired me. 20 years later, we sold the company to Korg, and I stayed on for 2 years for the transition, and I've been at DR for about 2 years now. So it's, I don't know, it's amazing how the time goes by, and one of the things I like the most about having been in this industry is all the people I've met. So, Ted, it's great getting to know you over time, and I'm happy to join you all on this podcast.
Yeah, I'm happy to have you guys. I got to say, too, while we're talking about things that Dale has written and done, when I first started teaching, Dale is one of the people, Dale and his DVD, I would kind of steal information from. So we thank you for that, Dale. We thank you.
It's okay.
That we
definitely okay.
And nobody's talking about your age or anything. I'm just saying. Thank you. Hey,
I'm pushing the big 60, man.
Hey man, you don't look a day older than you are right now.
Well said.
I'm here all week, folks. Hey, let's. I don't. I don't know if you guys had any thoughts about where you wanted to start, but we were just talking about it before we went live, and I think a good place to start is this endorser endorsee relationship. A lot of times we hear guys, people say, I'm endorsed by, and it's a it rubs me the wrong way because I'm like, these companies are not endorsing you, you are endorsing the product. So
Yeah.
either one of you guys jump in and let's talk a little bit about that relationship.
You know,
Well, I can start a little bit. One thing is, yeah, you're absolutely right. It's just like in the sports world is, um, notable players can, hopefully develop a relationship with a company, but they're technically endorsing. They're saying, I use this gear. This gear is good. This is what I've done with it, and I can recommend it. Now, I've noticed in our industry, specifically music industry with artist relations, there's a new term coming out, which is called endorsing artist partnership.
Okay.
Instead of, and I know it's a little semantics, but there is a little bit of a two-way. It kind of heightens the fact that a healthy endorsement relationship goes both ways. The artist helps promote the product, get it out so it's seen and heard, and becomes familiar with the player, with the players around. And our job is to hopefully help elevate the player too. And so we try, include them in our website. We include them on social media. But yeah, I think I'm seeing it. Even though Ted's absolutely correct, it's the artist that is endorsing the product, which is funny because it's ultimately the company that has the right to say, yes, we would like to have this relationship or not. But once it's established, it's really better to think of it as a two-way partnership.
Dave?
Yeah, it's like any relationship. You get back out of it what you put into it, and if you go into it selfishly, that ends up reflecting in the whole vibe of an energy of the relationship.
Mm.
I was thinking about this earlier, and that thing about people saying that, oh, I'm endorsed by so and so. It kind of reminded me a little bit of a relationship. Like imagine like a dating relationship.
Hmm.
You start dating this person that you've admired, you've been interested in for a while. You start dating them, and then someone says, "How's it going?" And you say, "Oh, so and so's dating me." You wouldn't say that, because
Yeah,
it just sounds so wrong, and so anyway, that's my funny analogy of that. It's a
that's cool,
relationship.
actually.
Treat it as such.
So since we're talking about healthy relationships, um, once the once that relationship is established, right?
Mhm.
Like what is
Can,
what is
can we
the
back up a step?
yeah, go
Can
ahead.
we back? Because to before you even get to the established relationship,
Mm-hmm.
often people reach out to brands and they say, "Hey, I'm up and coming.
Mm.
I like your product. I love your product. I use your product." I think that those are all important things to say.
Sure.
So before you've even like officially gone into the dating relationship, you have to show that you're interested. You have to show who you are
Right.
so that so that you're building a healthy foundation. And
Right.
so I think that artists playing the product always, goes a long way. When you can say like, hey, I've been using your product for X number of years. This is who I play with. This is what I'm doing. And show some of the value that you can bring to the brand.
Sure.
That showing your willingness, for one, your use of the product, and then your
Mhm.
willingness to and channels for helping the brand. That always puts your best foot forward, I think.
It's a great point. Talking about the initial contact. I can only speak for myself, but because of the brands I manage, I get to 10 to 20 requests for an artist endorsement um, partnership a week. And one thing, and I have other job duties, but one thing that's super helpful is in that first email, if the artist can include like links to their social media, link to their bio, try to provide as much information. So without a second email, I can already go, oh, okay, great. This looks good, or this is good. That just speeds up the process quite a bit. The other thing I'd say is artists have to understand that if there's like if a company says, oh, not now, it's not really the right time, it's not a knock on the talent. It's not, you could be a great player, but I think healthy companies are trying to make sure they have coverage in all genres, all demographics. You might happen to be hitting up a company that's really strong, like well known in one genre, has tons of artists already, and their focus is trying to get these other genres going. And so I always use the phrase, not now, let's check back in X amount of months. I never say a hard no. And because situations can change. But the best part is, and I've been fortunate. Most people, when I have to say it's not really the right time, but I'd like to hear back from you in 6 months, most people are real positive. I also do my best, and actually I learned this from Dave Avenius. I go and listen to, I give them respect. I listen to the Spotify's. I bring it up with authenticity, and also if I go to their social network, I follow them so that they know I didn't send a form letter. That with all due respect, I listened and I made my evaluation, and it's either, yeah, this is a great partnership, this is going to help us because we're just trying to expand our company, and it'll help you. You'll be able to get gear at a better price, and then maybe we can elevate your performance. So yeah, I think those are good points about the initial relationship building. Those are things that I think may leave a real positive effect on me when someone gives me a lot of information initially, and if it's a not yet, they respond positively and they check back in. I really do want to hear back from them if they're still looking.
Yeah. Dave?
That's all very true. I think it's important, speaking from the brand's perspective, we love that and appreciate everybody who wants to use our product. And the endorsement relationship is a very specific thing, but the relationship, that's not the only kind of relationship you can have. Sure. So being friendly with the brand and just building, I'll just, I keep reflecting back to like personal things, but I think it kind of clicked with me that this is important. Like my wife and I were friends for 10 years before we started dating, And so if it's not now, like Dale's saying, it's, a brand should be respectful, and leave the door open, because you never know. Right. You never know.
Yeah.
And as the artist, just keep working, be encouraged, and use the gear you want to use, whether you have the endorsement or not, because the best endorsements are when someone is using the product, their favorite product, not the product that they got a good deal on, not the product that they somehow got for free, which is much more rare than it used to be, but the endorsement comes when you play the product you prefer. That is, have the official relationship or not. What's that?
I've gotten emails that were literally a form email saying, I'm going to paraphrase, but I'm a well-known player in this area and I would love to use and they'd leave the blank. So obviously they sent it out to so many different, so they didn't really care. They just wanted the relationship. They didn't care about the product. That's brilliant. The other, and I don't mean to dominate, but one other thing I think is very important. If you happen to be a musician going to one of the trade shows, like the NAMM show, it's great to make a contact. If you're interested in getting an endorsement partnership going, it's great to shake a hand, maybe get a card, but realize that like the last NAMM show I did this past January, I went home with about 150 cards of people wanting endorsements. The NAMM show, if you want to stand out, I wouldn't do it at a trade show. I'd reach out any other time, anytime like a month after the NAMM show, month before. But doing it at the trade show, it's great to shake my hand. It's great to like have a quick brief conversation, but realize you're now put yourself in direct competition with 149 other artists looking for partnerships. And that's not great odds, because we can't develop.
You guys could see somebody coming with their hand out from a mile away. Right.
In the old days, they would come with the packets with the 8x10s and the.
Hang on a second, mister. I had one of those.
Yeah, me too. I did too.
I had a whole fold out thing. Don't get me started. But you guys mentioned something a little while ago. This idea of free stuff,
Yeah.
right? I'm like, man, and I've told people, I'm like, dude, I rarely, if ever, get anything completely for free, right? I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know anybody who's not just like at the top of the A-lister that's getting anything for free. And if I may, I would want to say how my relationship with Aguilar started. So,
Mm.
you know, I still know him, and I tried to get him here today, but he's busy. Not that you guys aren't like super busy, and I'm really appreciative of your time. But Daryl Anders, um,
Ah,
we were living in the same area. He's a bass player, but he's
yeah.
also MXR, and his part of his job is like, I want to know who the guys are, and this might have been 2006, 2007. And I had not really heard of Aguilar at the time, but there was a little place called Gelb Music in Redwood City.
Yeah.
And I went
Yeah.
out there and I played the Aguilar stuff. I was like, holy smokes, this is what I want. Right. And the first cabinet that I bought was the S410. Right.
Mm-hmm.
He introduced me to Dave. Dave and I sent Dave, I think it might have been MySpace links or something like that. And and I didn't become an artist until I was going out to LA to do an HBO show. And I'm just going to say, I have to say what this show was because it's that funny. It was called My Bear Lady. And what it was all of these I don't know if I could say the P word without Ron Jeremy was there.
Uh-huh.
And it was 2007, right? And I had just got married, and I'm not anymore, ladies. The two ladies that watch it. I'm kidding. I think I'm funny. But, so this one actress, she's like, "You guys should totally come back to the mansion." And I'm like, I'm too early in the game to be screwing it up. Anyway, but I called. I don't think I even talked to Dave, but I was like, I want to use Aguilar stuff on this show. And they they were like,
product placement.
what's that?
Mm-hmm.
Product placement.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, I imagine if I'm on the other end of that relationship, what's up from Brazil? Excuse me, just 1 second. I'm seeing, oh, you getting a compliment on the Warwick, the dolphin back there, Dale. And
Yeah.
hello from Brazil. Hello to you back in Brazil. Listen, if you guys have questions, if you're watching live, leave your questions, comments, or whatever in the chat box. I promise I'm going to get to them. If you have a question, leave a cue in the beginning so I can make sure that stands out. But like I was saying, if I were in on the other side, a consideration would have to be, how is this relationship going to affect my bottom line? Because everybody's in this, everybody's got to eat, right?
Yeah.
So, to that, nowadays, a lot of things are happening on social media. So you may get a person who's like really hot on social media, but is not playing out. And when I go to do gigs, nobody in the band cares what gear I use. They care that I, know the tunes and all of that stuff.
Right.
Other bass players do. You know what I mean? But my question is, how has social media affected your decision-making process for building that relation or starting a relationship like that with someone?
Well, I think it goes back to one of the core things about the artist and endorsement relationship, which is, how is it mutually beneficial? And I will say it's made it more complicated. because it was one thing when you could go, okay, this artist is, has X amount of followers, or actually look, go back even further. Before that, it was, okay, this artist gets written up in magazines pretty often. They end up on TV pretty often. Now magazines, are not as powerful as they used to be. So then it's like, we're still digesting, like, okay, they have X amount of followers on Instagram. They play in a band that has this many plays on Spotify. So you do have to take a little bit of a deep dive into all of those, channels. But then, when someone's an influencer, like on the far side of what you're talking about, so, their presence on social media as a musician is one thing, but there are some pretty big influencers that are great musicians that I don't know if they tour. I've seen, you see them play in their bedroom and they're awesome, or they're entertaining, or they have something that grabs you.
Like me.
And
entertaining, right?
That.
Entertaining, good looking. Come on, Dave.
I thought you meant you were grabbing me, and I was going to leave that one. That's why we keep camera distance.
Everybody's got their pants on, people. You knew that was coming. You knew that was coming.
It's PG. It's not G. Yeah. It's PG. But what the heck was my point? Oh, but but that's an interesting thing about all of this is that back in the day, I remember seeing, I'll never forget seeing one of my video of Van Halen and thinking, I want to do that. And then a little while, and I started playing bass, and then Pearl Jam came out, and I saw the videos of them just, stage diving and Eddie hanging from things. And that was what drew me in. Sure. In a really, I knew I loved music, but it was things like that made me go, I got to do that. But today, to a kid or a teenager or an adult, anybody just starting out, where are they going to get what grabs them, what gets them excited and lights that fire? And it might be someone playing in their bedroom in a really fun or engaging way. And brands have to, we have to pay attention to that. Sure. And respect that. And look, like Dale said, if we have to say no, it should be done respectfully. Sure. But we have to consider all those people who have the engagement. I'll give one caveat to that, and then I'll let Dale chime in. But one of the things that gets a little, I'm just going to say uncomfortable, is there are some artists that we work with who are shredding guitar players, but they also happen to be beautiful women. And when you go through their comments, you see things like, wow, that's great how you played this. And then you see other things that are like, oh, you're so beautiful. It's like, okay, let's be respectful of the people who are creating their art for our enjoyment. Sure.
I get that all the time, man. I get that all the time when people just.
I'll stop.
Mainly for me.
Guys are like, I'm so beautiful, and I'm like, thanks. I got to keep Dave on his toes. That's all. So, what do you?
Well,
go ahead, Dave.
I would say, social media has added a cool dimension that is appealing for me when I'm looking at artists. Sometimes what happens is some bass players out there, and I was one of these guys, didn't have a band. I would be hired and picked up to do this tour, to do these shows, to do this session, but I wasn't a band guy. And because of that, I wasn't, I did get ultimately a Warwick endorsement, but it was harder because they couldn't look at 12-month tour calendar and say that I'd sold this many albums. Nowadays, what's great is if you're that kind of player, you're a session and live, kind of hired gun, get your social media just balling. Lots of posts from different venues, posts from sessions, get your viewership up, get your followers up. Because for me, that means one thing is if I was to, develop a relationship, partnership with you as a player, and you're in this one band and that band ends and then that partnership had kind of this weird thing. And now you got another day job and that's cool, but you're not in music anymore. That's awkward. But if you maintain your musical appearance on your social media, our relationship is growing and it's helping each other. So same thing, if you're listening to this and you want to maybe start to approach companies, try to get some followers up, make a lot of posts that are music related, and about it, just pick a piece of gear you like and do a quick little talk about it, why you like it, play it. It doesn't matter. But what it shows any company that you're approaching is, oh, look, okay, they know how to do this and they got this many comments. And the other thing I'd say is if someone comments on one of your music posts, reply to the comment. Because right now that's a real big thing with the algorithm. It says, oh, this person's engaging, so that's going to be seen more. But I think it is it has added an extra dimension to the relationship of a company and an artist. But I think if you use it well, it can help you stand out from other people seeking the same partnership. So I'm pro social media. Just realize we are going to look at your previous posts. So if you want to have a business relationship, businesses might shy away from things that could negatively reflect the company so be self-editing on what you put up if you don't want a company to see it.
That's game. That's game right there. So you saying I should take down a link to my OnlyFans?
No, I want
Is
the
there
password.
an Aguilar rig in the pictures? If there's Aguilar gear in the pictures, I'm sure they're okay.
That's
Good
all
to
my
go.
OnlyFans is. That's all my OnlyFans is me, in various states of undress with my Aguilar. Ain't
You're building the
nobody want to
relationship.
see that.
Building the relationship.
Well, you know what? Back to like building the relationship with Dave. I had the S410, but like I wasn't ready to have this full on relationship, and I might even still have this email from Dave where he basically said, "Hey, do these things, right?" But I think having some skin in the game, right?
Mhm.
Having, if you look, I've already purchased this, and this, right? I got some skin in the game. I had a guy, beautiful cat, but he hits me up out of the blue and he's like, "Hey man, can you put me in touch with your man from Aguilar?" For what? You know what I'm saying? Like, first of all, you and I haven't talked in months. You know what I mean? And I was just like, man, look, OG, look, before you set up the ask, holla at me every now and again and just say, "Hey man, how you doing?"
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
all relationships.
It's
all
all
relationships.
relationships. And I still don't get nothing for free. Right? So, and because businesses have to remain in business. We got a question here. What are the cons of an endorsement deal? Are there any cons of an endorsement deal?
Well, I mean, I could start with one is if you happen to sign an exclusive with a company. So you actually sign saying that when you're going to, appear on stage and videos, on photos, things like that, you must have the brand. There sometimes can be some tension if like you go to a venue and the backline company didn't have the rig or for the company that you endorse and they made a substitution. That can be a little uncomfortable. I think most artist relations people understand it, that backline companies don't necessarily have exactly what you want on your rider. There's not a lot of cons if you approach it like a healthy partnership. I don't lie, as an artist, oh, okay, wait a minute. I can say one thing you can do that can get you kind of blackballed, because all artist relationships talk to each other.
Oh, let's go, Dale.
Is do not purchase something for yourself as an artist relations and sell it like right away. When you do that, you basically kind of screwing the company. You're not only hurting the company, you're hurting the dealer that could have made that sale. And what you don't understand is we always find out because the person then calls for tech support or something, or they want to get an accessory and they call a music store and they say, "I bought it from this artist." And then it comes back to us. That is bad. there's not a lot. That's just like one of the worst things you could do. Purchase the gear for yourself, for your use. Now, let's say after many, many years, you want to upgrade to something else, then talk to the company, say, hey, these are my plans, make sure it's cool with the company. That happens to us because the Aguilar's been around for so long. Some of our early artists will say, hey, I'm going to sell this GS 112. I'm not using it anymore. I've had it for, 15 years or whatever. That's okay, because they're informing us, they're asking us, say, is this cool? I'll say yes, and then we'll work out whatever they want to get. But if you're using your connection with the company to make money by selling gear and giving it to, selling it to your friends, if that's found out, everyone will
Really
find out.
happen a lot?
Not a lot.
Okay.
Okay. Now again, I'm old. I mean, I started playing just after electricity was invented, but
Yes.
there when I
Wait,
did.
wait, Dale,
Yeah.
hold that thought. Hold that
Okay.
thought. Hold that thought.
Is the mood man here?
Hold that thought. Ah.
Oh, it's Moody.
No, he's not here if he's not wearing a bow tie.
He's not wearing a bow tie. Would you?
Oh.
Well, Dave, the pandemic's changed a lot of things for people.
That's
so.
okay.
Oh, bro.
It was
We
the
are
shortage of
talking
bow ties in
branding.
the pandemic.
What's that, Dad?
Nice to see you, John.
Yeah, nice to see you.
Now look,
Yeah.
before Dale continues his story, I should probably let him continue his story because he's older than dirt, according to his own statements a second ago. So
But look at his hair.
man's got a full head of hair. Man's got a full head of hair. And
No, all I was going to say was I wasn't even an AR guy, but back in my early days of Warwick, there were two artists in about a 5-year period that we found were calling up saying, hey, I need this for this gig. They'd buy it, and then they would turn right around and sell it to somebody so they could make money. And back in those days, the person would fill out a warranty card, and it'd have the serial number. And we were able to easily see like, oh, wait a minute. And so, yeah, you respect the relationship and it's going to respect you right back, man. But you abuse the relationship. It's easy for the company to say, hey, we're going to terminate. And then, man, there's coffee talk at NAMM shows. It'll get out. So just honor the rep, treat it professionally,
Can I circle back to something Dale said before that and then let John chime in? Sorry, John, I just want to follow up on a point, if you don't mind. Dale had mentioned that, if you're endorsing something, often that's an exclusive thing, but but brands do understand, like Dale's example of like, you go to a gig, there's backline that's not the rig you use, use amps as an example, and brands understand that, but I would suggest not posting like, hey, I got to rock out with like, don't bring attention to it. Do your gig.
Point,
that's
Dave.
your job.
Yeah.
But there's an etiquette. There's an etiquette to how you handle it on social media and things.
5 points for Hufflepuff. That's a good point.
Hufflepuff.
That's
We're gonna have to talk later.
Baseball right there. I don't know what Hufflepuff is all about. Hey, John, are you wearing pants? Wait a minute.
I mean,
wait a minute.
Does it matter?
Hey, John, and I need to put John on blast. Everybody that has seen the latest TED Talks Bass logo, and we about to get some new shirts out. You guys, let's all don't stand up because they don't have no pants on, but a round of applause, even for Jonathan Moody and his artistic self.
Yes.
Nice, John.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I actually have, I've got a green room talk about logos and stuff I'll have to share with you guys after.
Okay. Hey,
it's
John,
a cool one coming up.
John, you have some of the best horror stories. And before you get into those horror stories, you and I have talked about this a lot offline.
Mm-hmm.
Shared some really cool stories. Won't you tell the folks a little bit about who you are and talk about that album you got coming out too?
Oh,
Oh
yes.
yeah. So my name's John Moody. For 10 years, I was the artist relations guy at GHS Strings, and handling kind of everything else that people didn't want to do, or because, small company, you always wear a lot of hats
Mhm.
kind of thing. And always had a good time talking with artists, being able to develop products based upon that. Also working on the marketing side to see, okay, how do we actually get this going? Who are we marketing towards? All that kind of stuff. Loved every second of it. Also in my, evening hours, I am a musician of the night, usually playing for the person that throws me the most money or that
Music.
just gets me on the book
Your
first.
private dancer.
That's Ted, you are in the same boat. You've got no room to talk.
Do
But
what you want me to do.
right. So kind of been doing the punk rock thing, but like this past year jumping back into jazz, most notably fusion.
Mhm.
To the point, like Ted's saying, that I started at the beginning of the year. I said, you know what? I'm putting out another album this year, but it's not going to be the solo bass stuff that I did before. I'm actually going back, want to write some jazz stuff, put together kind of a list of people that I wanted for it. Um, Everybody emphatically said yes. They hadn't even heard any of the music, but we're just like, yep, on board, fine. And then from there, actually, the I live in Kalamazoo, Michigan, where like it's a small town, but the arts community is
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah.
Like, it's way bigger than towns, 10 times its size.
Wow.
So I reached out to the Kalamazoo Arts Council and was actually able to get a grant towards it as well.
Mhm.
So
Nice.
I've got about 8 or 9 songs, ranging anywhere from like Bob James, smooth jazz kind of stuff, to just straight up funk kind of thing.
Mhm.
Nice.
Um, going to be recorded first weekend in December. The working title is Asphalt, because all the songs are really based upon trips I've taken, places I've gone on this whole musical journey, and kind of the vibe it's left with me.
Love it. Love it.
Nice.
I would recommend for a future podcast, just have John back. And I think a lot of artists, not just bass players, a lot of artists would be fascinated with what goes in to independently putting an album out. And
Yeah. Yeah.
and Ted, I mean, Brother Theodore, absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of information you could share. Like, I didn't know grants existed for this thing.
Right.
John found them. So I think if you could share like how you found it, how they can see if it's
Mm-hmm.
available in their area, that's a great future podcast that I will watch.
Noted.
Yeah.
John,
Yeah.
you have
Check
been.
your
Well,
calendar.
yeah.
See, I didn't even do it. I didn't even.
Man, I tell you, thankfully, after I think November 3rd is when my schedule frees up until like late May, and I am so looking forward to it.
You look talking to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, because I can spend time with Ted.
That's
all I want to do.
Bring your tea. Bring your tea.
Bring-
John, seriously, this man, this group of fellas, the cats. Hey man, let's hear these horror stories about.
So, I mean, I think a lot of the stuff for me came from, I think, the realization that, and maybe you've seen this too, Dave, with DR, is that because the price point of the product they're endorsing is so low, I feel like they feel that they can get away with a lot more.
Yeah, people don't value strings sometimes as much as they should.
Right.
The thing I'd like to point out is that the strings start the entire signal chain.
Oh, yeah.
They're the most affordable thing you can do to upgrade and improve the sound of your instrument.
Well, I mean,
But
it's like gas in your car. No one really thinks about it, but at the same point, you don't have gas,
yeah,
or you have bad gas. So, I mean,
yeah,
like I had like Dale was saying, you guys just touched on. We had one guy, like a friend gifted him a set of strings for Christmas or something like that. So he did a social media post, again, GHS artist, holding up a photo of Roto Sound strings, saying, "Going to try these out."
Oh,
That's not a great look. I think one of my big favorite, I mean, a lot of them, anytime somebody comes at me trying for an endorsement and they lead with how many years they've been playing, I know it's going to be a bad discussion.
yeah.
Why,
You know,
why is that so?
well, I'm of the thing, just because I've been playing bass now for, oh God, 35 years.
Some young bucks in here.
Right.
I
And,
smell
but,
like
with that, that doesn't mean that I'm any good at it.
Yeah.
Just that number, somebody told me once, do you have 10 years of experience, or have you been repeating year 1 10 times?
Oh, bars. Oh,
Right.
bars.
So
Yeah.
so that's where
the old guy said bars like a kid.
right. So
I watch
so I
TikTok.
mean, there've been so many times like that. Like, I had one guy, after I looked at all, and I'll still give them the benefit of the doubt. I'll look through everything they give me.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of times it doesn't work out well for them, but sometimes it does. But I had one time a guy said, "How old are you?" "I've probably been playing longer than you've been alive."
Well, that's a good reason to give them an to work with them.
Exactly. I was like, you know what? Touche, sir. Here's the contract.
You remember, and you guys. So there's a running theme here. Also, is that one, the NAMM show is not a place to go looking for endorsements.
Yeah.
Another thing that I'm hearing is that you guys know and remember names, right? So it's first chance to make one chance to make a first impression, right?
Yeah, and I mean, we had, like, I think my favorite one was guy from the 80s, had a modicum of success in a couple of the, I wouldn't say the big name hair metal bands. I would say probably like the second or third tier ones that, were kind of like hopping on the bill. Or it would be the thing when the record label's like, hey, we need another band like Poison. Oh, get them. Kind of one of those kind of things. Had a modicum of success, but carried himself, especially at NAMM, like that was like everyone should be so amazed. And like he was always very hard to deal with.
Yeah.
Very hard to deal with. And I remember the one time he said something to me in a phone call, and he said something like, well, I haven't had my contract renewed in a long time. This is an outrage. I'm like, oh, great, cool. Sent him the new one. And he proceeds to edit it and send it back. And I remember the first line said, in honor and respect of so and so's contribution to heavy metal and music in general, GHS will, like, it was this thing of like the whole thing of, we would have him at the booth, we would pay him a per diem every day that he is at the booth. There would be signings at the booth. We would also book him a gig and a feature at one of the places at NAMM afterwards and stuff. And I mean, I laughed. Like, it was one of those, I sent it around to everybody, be like, get a load of this kind of thing. And I basically wrote it back and said, no, sir, the original contract is what I gave you. You can either sign it or we can cancel this right now. You've got a day to respond.
Yeah.
Wow. Name names, bro.
No.
I mean, I don't mean in front of everybody. I don't mean in front of company. Come on.
Yeah.
Come on. John, let me interrupt you for just a second. MJ Morgan is saying, I know we kind of touched on this a little bit earlier, but if we could just recap on this. She's saying, how many bands do we have to play in before applying for a string endorsement?
One.
Yeah.
I think I'll let John take that and then I'll comment.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I don't see as many. You don't have to be playing in tons of bands. I mean, I think a lot of it, especially now with how social media is, if you know how to work your audience, you know, you can be in just one band playing out casually, but if you're getting the reactions from people, not the likes, getting legitimate reactions from people and talking to people about that, and people are asking you what you're playing and you're showing them and you're telling them, I mean, it would be one band's probably fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's sort of what you guys were talking about before John hopped on was this social media era, how we're working the engagement in those spaces. Also, thanks for that, John. Also, we got Wayne Lawrence from who is rep from the Gerald Veasley boot camp. He
Oh yeah.
says Aguilar has always been a big supporter of the Gerald Veasley boot camp in Philly. DR Strings would love to have you be a part of the camp as well. I'll make an introduction. And but even with things like that, right? When you have
Yeah.
camps and stuff like that, say like, okay, and I'm not saying these guys are not upholding their end of the bargain. The point I'm getting is with these relationships, we will build this relationship. I'm speaking in this fictitious role as a company. You're going to talk about our products. You're going to represent the brand in a good way. Things that I guess you would expect, right? Don't do shady stuff. Don't go trying to sell the stuff and all that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Treat it like a relationship. I mean, it's a relationship, And to answer the question about how many bands, again, it's like, what are you bringing to the relationship? And understand that relationships sometimes have to build over time. You can always start a relationship, even if your end goal is like you want to work directly with the brand, as long as you go into it with, in a healthy way and say, look, I love your product. I would like the opportunity to work with you directly someday. You're acknowledging maybe it's not right now, but you just want to get to know the brand better by having that personal connection. And I think another thing to think about is that when a brand sells to an artist directly, they are taking business away from a store. And the retail landscape in the world, really, but I was going to say in our country, the retail landscape has been changing and changing and changing. And those stores are made up of people like each of us, that had a dream of playing music. And sometimes the path, like I moved, like I said in my intro, I moved to LA to play music. I got into the business side of things. Many store owners are just like us. They love music. They wanted to be a rock star. They ended up on the business side of it. And when a brand sells directly to an artist, they're taking business away from that store. And the trade needs to be that the artists can help bring enough business back to their local dealer by talking about what product they use and say, hey, I love what I play. Go buy it at Bob's Guitar Emporium. It's so it's a relationship, and it's a community. We're all in this because we love music, and at whatever stage of your career or whether you're working at a store or you're an artist looking for endorsement, it's a community. We're all in this together. So just, I think if you approach it that way, and be patient sometimes.
And to balance out, part of the conversation is maybe relationships that haven't been healthy, but and I think I can speak for all the guys here, by and large, an overwhelming majority of the artists we work with are great. And I'm so thankful because Dave Avinius actually promoted me into doing artist relations when he was still with Aguilar. And he said, you're going to make some of the best friends you've ever had. And that's absolutely true. It is one of the greatest jobs I've ever had because when you find the people who understand the relationship, also just want to be friends and want to like share parts of their life with you. And that's really great. And it really kind of just makes you want to help the person out more. And so it's a great job to have being in artist relations. Yeah, there's some hassles and there's some problems and there's a lot of midnight calls that, hey, I'm in this town, they don't have this, and can you help me find it? But by and large, we get to work with some of the most creative human beings on the planet, and it is so inspiring. And I'm including, by the way, Ted. Ted inspires me so much.
Absolutely.
His music and
both as a player and as a person.
Yeah.
No comment.
Ain't nobody asked you nothing. Ain't nobody asked you nothing, Jonathan. I would say that quite honestly and sincerely. Every one of these guys I consider a personal friend, and it started off, as just kind of this casual business relationship, and then you people have life events, and I can't tell you how many times I cried on Jonathan Moody's shoulders. Oh my God, it's not even funny.
I mean, that's true though. You and I have had some deep phone calls over the past few years.
Me and Dale as well. Dave, I'm not keeping you out of the loop. I'm just, I'll catch up. I'll catch you up later. I got a question here that's going to be good for you guys. It's a good question. Is it possible for houses of worship to establish relationship with companies, or would you rather deal with an individual player? Could the church get an endorsement?
Yeah, I can start. And then the guys can maybe talk about with the string opportunities. I can say for both Aguilar and Dark Glass, we will work directly with houses of worship, and also with clubs and things like that. It's not what we call an artist relations deal. It's more what's called an industry accommodation. But we've had a long-standing history, and this also goes back to previous companies I've worked with, where with these kind of with churches and performance halls, we want to support art and music, and so we do. But we do want to do it directly with the institution itself. That's how the companies I've worked with. But that's always been either bases or amplification. So I'll turn it over to the other guys.
It is occasionally weird to hear Aguilar talked about in a it's a little out of body experience for me in a way. Also to the point about churches though, it's also a little bit of a backline relationship, because ears at the church for any artist that comes through, just like it would be at a club. Strings, I'll be curious John's thoughts. It's probably more an artist to brand relationship. And if your main gig is a house of worship, again, it's a relationship and it's a conversation we can have. And so, I'd suggest that the artist reach out if it's a string thing. But John, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's it is definitely a different thing than like a backline kind of situation, because I guess it also sort of depends on how many different musicians, if the church is going there. I mean, you could do it, and then I've had stuff like that. Like we did something kind of the same thing. Like we did one with a recording studio, but then everybody that went through there was ordering from us directly, trying to cite that, oh yeah, we're here. So, we were working for them. And so it turned out we made it more of, like you were saying, Dale, more of an industry accommodation thing where it's like you almost treat this, the studio, or in this case, the house of worship, as like a vendor. So you'd sell that to them, not as an artist pricing, but more as an industry kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, most of the time on that, it would be more of endorsing the artist that happens to play at the house of worship over the house of worship itself, just from like an accessory standpoint.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. We have another question. Could an endorsing artist contribute with product development as well? My assumption would be that would depend on the name recognition of that artist.
I would say for me, like, because we did that a lot. And it goes back to what Dave and Dale said. It really all comes down to the relationship, because I had I had a couple guys that just over the years were always just super cool with me, but the way we would also talk about gear
Mm-hmm.
and strings really was a natural progression to when like I was working on a new set, I could say, "Hey, would you do this? You know, take these on the road. Let me know what you think." And I also, you know, because of the relationship, could trust that it's like they would give me the straight business on it. They wouldn't just be like, "Oh, these are great. Thank you so much," and stuff. They would really do the, "Hey, this is cool for this, this, this. This is what I'm getting issues with." You know, like they actually were a contributing member to it. And
But
yeah, so I mean, there's totally opportunities, but it's
they're
really
not
that
getting like they're not
relationship.
on payroll for that though, right?
No, no, I mean, it's kind of that thing. Like, well, most of the guys that I was doing that with anyway were already like no charge endorsers
Mm-hmm.
for strings. So it really was like there was nothing new that they were getting except more of they were just able to do that.
Yeah.
And then like what I would do like on the marketing side once that came out, you know, I would obviously we'd ask them first, but really give them kind of a big push of like, you know, we want to thank so and these guys for really helping us
Yeah.
do this kind of thing. So, and then they also used that once it came out as, you know, their social media thing of like, so happy to see this come through. If you guys saw me on our last tour leg, you heard these strings in action,
Mm.
love them, go check them out now kind of thing. So,
Well, that sounds like a whole nother conversation that that we could be having. Like, you know, we've jokingly said this before. Like the days of the millionaire bass player are over, right? And social media is the thing, but like you guys have said some things. I'm like, dang, you know, I haven't done X, Y, and Z in a while, or have I ever done it like that? You know what I mean? How could I, like Dave was talking about, you know, pointing back to that mom and pop shop. Yeah, I wish Gelb was still around. I don't even know if they're still around, but like really turning those things over to where it's you know, we're all eating. You know what I'm saying? But how do we manage our social media accounts? Maybe we'll have another roundtable.
Yeah.
We're gonna land the plane here pretty soon, but if we could recap, if they're like the top 3 to 5 things, right? Top three, let's say top 3 things that a person could do to get their foot in the door to get an endorsement relationship. What do they need to really understand about that? How to maintain that relationship? Let's say top 2. There's a
Well,
lot of meat
yeah,
in those 2 questions.
I'll do two and then pass on. One is, yeah, when you reach out, and email is the most effective way. Calls, they don't, you know, we're always on our phones, we're in meetings stuff, but emails are great. Is be include as much information about yourself as possible. Try to paint the entire picture, tell the whole story of who you are and where you're going musically, and include links to your social media. Give that absolute picture to us so we can get a really good idea of where you're at and if it matches where we want the brand to go. And remember, if it's a not yet or not now, it's not saying you're not a good player.
Mm.
It might be something that we're covered. We have way too many, you know, artists currently in that genre. We really want to focus on this genre. So, but if the company says, "Hey, check back with me in such and much time," check back with them. That's how the relationship starts. You know, that you check back and then you know reminded things. It's also when you do check back, reply to that original email so I can remind myself the story or anyone doing AR. But I think you know when you make your first reach out handshake, tell as much of your personal story as possible.
Mm. David.
I'll play the gear that you prefer. Play
Mm.
the gear that
Yeah.
you love, whether it's the strings, the pedals, the amp, the pickups, the whatever it is, the bass, the cabinet, whatever. Start there, you know, because when you approach a brand and say, look, I'd like to develop a direct relationship with you because your product is integral to my sound.
Yeah.
That goes a long way, both to the brand and then whether the endorsement relationship is now or later, that's the endorsement. that this is the thing I can't play without. Like, this is my sound. And so that's probably one of my biggest things is play what you love.
Yeah.
That's I just want, before, John, I love you. I just want to, not a word, okay? We haven't said anything. You got no bow tie. You got pants on. I don't even know who you are.
You don't know if I have pants on.
You know, Dave, that is so, like, it's almost like saying, look, we ain't gonna give you anything for free anyway. So you might as well just, you know what I mean? Here's the thing that I would play. I'm just gonna play this anyway. I'm gonna talk about it too. Maybe
yes, but also a thing I guess I would think about is that, why do you play music? You play music because hopefully it's your heart and your soul, and it's how your mental health, and it's like, it's who you are.
Yeah.
Seek your validation in the music you create,
Yeah.
not products you get a good deal on.
Come on,
Yeah.
Dave. Come on, Pastor Dave. Can I say amen? Hey.
Well, there you go. My 2
Okay,
cents.
John. Okay, John. John is over there about to come through the screen
Oh,
and
now,
punch me out.
I would say with that too, I mean, especially when you're approaching a company as well and wanting to build that relationship, also take a very hard look at everything you're presenting as well. Because especially in this day and age, if somebody says, I am endorsing brand X, and like all their social stuff is poo-pooing on other people in the music community, is doing something like, man, I played this gig last night and the bass I was using was just a piece of crap. I don't know what I'm going to do without this. That's going to reflect on the company and your relationship.
Yeah.
As a whole. So I would say take and it's hard, because, we don't really like taking that objective view on ourselves, myself included. But I think especially in this case too, while you are building that relationship, if you're at a not yet or things like that too, also do that little bit of business side to be like, okay, what would change them from a not yet to a yes? Absolutely.
Great.
That's game too. John, what you're saying is like, what all of you guys are saying is, everything we do is online. And listen, anybody who I allow to be my friend on, I can be a little spicy on Facebook now. I'm a little less spicy in other places, but like, when I stopped teaching at one school, the principal, a year later became my friend on Facebook, and I'm like, now Allison, listen, you know what I'm saying? Like, I was joking with Dale earlier. I was saying, I could start a podcast about X, Y, and Z, but I never know when I might need to enter into corporate America again. So it's like, even the stuff I do here on YouTube, I'm at a point, not like I'm a big deal or whatever, but somebody called my name out in Lowe's the other day, and I'm like, I don't know. You was like, man, I've been following your channel for years. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm, kind of now at this point was like, you know what? I need to be mindful about, what's out there. You know what I mean? Because listen, fellas, I cannot thank you enough for this time. This has been a great conversation. I know I gave John a hard time about his pants and bow tie, but that's my boy though. So you know what I'm saying?
I was telling friends too about this, and they're like, "So what's your and Ted's relationship?" It's like, dude, do you remember the two old ladies that just sit at the retirement home up front? All they do is just give each other grief. That is me and Ted.
Listen. listen, me and John are sometimes it's like texting back and forth is like 10, 20 minutes of just razzing each other about. But man, I'm seriously thankful for you guys spending this time, for you coming on this journey. Those of you who are watching live, I appreciate your questions. I appreciate your time.
Yeah.
Listen, if you have not subscribed to this channel and hit that like button, do it right now, or I'm sending John to your house with or without pants. I'm just saying. I'm not gonna send John to your house. I'm coming
with just a bow tie.
With just call the law. Dave is like the boy. He's just sitting there. Dave is always so calm, cool, and collected. He's just like, I'm not touching any of this. I'm not getting involved.
You know, I'm just a bass player, Ted. I'm just doing my supportive role here.
There you go.
Well, John is not. He's a bass player. He wasn't late. He was just laid back. He was behind the beat.
Oh, there you go.
You like
There
that?
you
He
go.
didn't
So far
even have a
behind the
comeback.
beat.
He didn't even have a comeback. You see that?
No.
Silent.
Give me 5 minutes. I'm that far behind. Then I'll have it.
Needs coffee. You need some tea?
No, I got some here.
Okay, I bet you do. All right, y'all. We appreciate you spending this time with us. We gonna go and land this plane before I say something that's gonna come back to bite me in the behind. We see you next time, fellas. Salute. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
See ya.
Thanks,
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Guys, bye-bye.